Welcome back to In the Loop, folks. Question for you. How many of y'all out there surf? You know, like hang 10, shred the gnar, surfs up, that kind of stuff. If you don't surf, no worries because you're in good company. I don't either. But there are a lot of folks out there who do, with estimates between 17 to 35 million surfers worldwide. Now, while that might sound like a lot, it pales in comparison to the 265 million people who play soccer, or what other folks globally call football. The reason is obvious enough. Surfing is a sport traditionally reserved for the coasts. You need waves to surf and an ocean to surf them in, right? Well, that's all changing. As a part of Newsy's In Real Life documentary series, we explored how surfing is moving inland, away from the coasts. Here's a clip from In Real Life's upcoming episode, Tomorrow's Wave.
When this thing came out in 2018, they ran the first wave. Seth Moniz did a backflip. It hit the surfing community by storm worldwide. Every wave is perfect. It's predictable. The technology here, it's created a world-class environment for beginners to learn to surf, but also for professional level surfers to come out and train and master their craft.
Don't get me wrong. All this technology is exciting. But at the same time, I couldn't help but think about the environmental footprint of these massive projects that can cost anywhere from $20 million to $200 million to build and operate. Efforts are being made to mitigate some of the environmental impacts. For example, a park in Bristol, England is 100% powered by solar and wind energy. And while Waco didn't share any specifics about their energy use, David did talk to us about their approach to water use. Waco says they don't use any of the city's water for their surf pool. The park was originally built with these 3 lakes, which act like a catch basin and cool the water before use.
That's where the well water comes up.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's really hot.
I know, 120 to 130. Dude, and that's straight from the ground. And then from here, it funnels into that lake, gravity, over to this lake, gravity, and then into that lake, gravity. And then we pump that into filtration.
So how deep is, I guess it can get pretty deep. Let's have a diving board too.
So yeah, a little diving board. You could take a dip. Nature's giving us a resource, we're capturing it, and then turning that into fun for humans.
Recreating Waco's water system in other parts of the country is a long shot for many reasons. For one, Texas has less stringent water use regulations than drought-impacted places like California. In California's Palm Desert region, 4 separate parks are being proposed, each within an hour's drive of each other. Another park raising some eyebrows is a recently approved $80 million project just 1 mile from the beach in Oceanside, California, that puts the surf park in the center as the main attraction.
Pretty wild stuff there. That full episode, hosted by our own Joey Mayako, premieres this Sunday, October 23rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Newsy. Now, one key question around parks that simulate the ocean's waves is how much energy they use. That's key to understanding the sustainability of these places. But it's also pretty tough to measure. So why is that? Well, first, it's water. You see, we have to think about these surf parks like any other sports venue, much like a basketball arena or a football stadium. These surf parks act in very much the same way, but with surf parks, that court or field is, again, water, and water is heavy to move. It's not like flipping on a light switch. And with just a few competing technologies creating said wave and a reluctance to share that information publicly, there's no true apples to apples comparison when it comes to this stuff.
Across the board, it's very hard to find the actual energy requirements for creating a wave. I did some back of the envelope math using different parameters and calculated that one wave is about 2 megawatts of energy, which is about powering 1,500 homes.
Ricardo Summons is a PhD candidate in environmental science at the University of Colorado Boulder. Ricardo wrote an article back in 2019 entitled Surfing Our Way to Climate Deception, in which he conducted his own peer-reviewed calculations, estimating how much energy the World Surf League's surf ranch in Lemoore, California, used to make one wave.
At least the design of the surf ranch is basically a locomotive, right, with a hydrofoil.
He concluded that they use 2 megawatts of power, which is equivalent to roughly 8 kilowatts of electricity. At 12 cents per kilowatt hour, that comes out to roughly $1 per wave. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, if you put that into context, the average US household uses 800 kilowatt hours per month, which, when you break it down, is roughly 26 kilowatt hours per day or 1.2 kilowatt hours per hour. So one surf ranch wave consumes 7 hours of equivalent energy. Or, to take it a step further, 10 people surfing 10 different waves would be as much energy for one household for a month. Now, houses tend to use a little energy all the time, while surf parks use a lot of power for a short amount of time. But these surges can put a big strain on energy grids. And here is where it gets tricky with economies of scale as it relates to power and energy. We were able to track down a Reddit thread that was in line with Ricardo's estimates, but again, these are estimates. The post also explained that the surf ranch was the most energy intensive of all the systems. Spain-based Wave Garden, which has publicly shared their energy usage, claims to use between 250 to 450 kilowatts per hour. They had to create a basis for comparison to show how they stacked up against their peers. Other technologies have reported using between 400 and 2,500 kilowatt hours to produce any variation of different wave types in a given hour. And herein lies the real conundrum. These waves come in all different shapes and sizes.
So instead of thinking about a wave, it's probably more accurate to think about a pulse of energy, and that goes across the different wave generation technologies. There is an output of energy that creates a pulse in the water.
This is the Surf Seconds Energy Efficiency Factor, or SSEEF, developed by the Sustainable Tourism and Outdoors Kit for Evaluation, or STOKE. The goal is to level the playing field for comparing this energy data across this industry, much like the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, or LEED certification, has done for commercial real estate.
So what the Surf Seconds Energy Efficiency Factor does is it calculates how many seconds are there involved, how many riding seconds are there involved in a primary wave. And you count the number of seconds that each rider is riding for, multiply by the number of surfers. Then we take the secondary wave, if there is one produced, and do the same thing. How many seconds are surfers riding that wave for? But we discount it to 80% of its full value because you can't charge the same amount of money for that wave as you can for the primary wave. Then we take the tertiary wave, do the same thing again, and maybe you can even line up 10 beginners all getting a 10-second ride riding straight to the shore of a wave basin, and we discount that by 60%. So we add all that up together from a single pulse, multiply it by how many pulses there are in an hour, and then we divide that by the kilowatt hours used over that same hour. So you get a sense of what the energy output is like at the highest when it's cranked fully up, and then when it's at a more intermediate beginner level, and that can give you a point of comparison.
So you might be asking, why does any of this matter, Christian? I just want to surf. You see, surfing has a rich history with nature, environmentalism, and activism. It's part of the DNA of surf culture, but it's also an industry like any other, with its sights set on the future. And this one niche activity is starting to become not so niche. While surf parks will never replace the ocean, they do have the potential to democratize the sport and open it up in ways never thought possible. But without a clear understanding of how much energy resources we're talking about, the waters remain murky.
And I think it's super important, as I mentioned before, that they're using renewable energy. And then you can start to get more flexible with, well, we want to put more power into this wave to make a higher quality product. And that's okay because we're using, preferably on-site generated renewable energy. We're not polluting, we're not contributing to climate change or CO2 production. We're using this energy, producing it on-site to produce a wave of a high quality.
You might even be able to see, okay, for riding this wave or this many waves in the surf park, I use so many kilowatts of energy. But what's most important is that energy coming from coal? Is it coming from solar energy? And the carbon component of that is going to be critical. And as much transparency as we can get, I think will really give confidence to environmentally conscious consumers that they can use this and enjoy their time with a clear conscience.